Yo, what's going on, everybody? This your man King Bezos, and we back here with like another video of the NFL Week 3 bets touchdown edition. Now, before I go and to break down all the games for y'all, definitely want to give a special shout out to all of my subscribers, viewers, people that be that liking the that video content. Definitely want to say thank y'all for actually the other support. Appreciate y'all so much, man. You know what I mean? Like, I know that my picks, they be close, but no cigar, you know what I mean? But still early. Definitely appreciate y'all that rocking with me. We definitely gonna be getting there soon, you know what I mean? Promise y'all. But just hang on tight, you know what I mean? But I just wanted to say thank y'all, man. The views, likes, support definitely means so much, man. Like, it really does, you know what I mean? This is my first time doing this that YouTube shit, you know what I mean? So I definitely just wanted to say thank y'all so much. And also too, for the new people that are actually joining, that welcome, you know what I mean? Here, you don't know, we actually bet on the NFL players scoring touchdowns. So I break down the other running backs, wideouts, tight ends, you know what I mean? And I give you my picks as to who's going to score touchdowns, you know what I mean? So if you like this if you like this or that type of stuff, then this is the other channel for you, you know what I mean? Definitely appreciate that once again, all of the other viewers, subscribers, definitely appreciate all of that, you know what I mean? Definitely leave a like, comment, you know what I mean? I actually see all of that. I actually try to respond, you know what I mean? So it's definitely appreciated. Also too, y'all can also follow me on Instagram and on Twitter for my news, picks, you know what I mean? And that is King Bezos. That is KIING BEZOS. You can follow me again, King Bezos, over on Instagram and on that Twitter. So without further ado, let's actually talk about last week and week 2. So week 2 was very frustrating. Definitely was frustrating because I really felt as though it was a lock. I really felt as though it definitely was a lock. The good first, let's actually talk about the good, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot to say about the bad. But that the 3 that did hit, that was on the ticket, which I posted up on my the Instagram and Twitter page. It was Josh Allen to throw 2 touchdowns and the Bills to win. Now, Josh Allen definitely did his own thing. He actually had two touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown, but they called it back. You know what I mean? So that was rough. Buffalo's Bills defense definitely came out and they just put an ass whipping on the Dolphins, man. Tua got hurt. You know what I mean? Because he has bruised ribs right about now. So I hope Tua definitely gets well. But the Buffalo Bills defense definitely showed out last week. So that ticket hit. Then I parlayed that with the Mike Evans touchdown and the Buccaneers to win. Now, last week I was all on for Mike Evans to definitely score. And I also said too, don't be surprised if he scores 2 touchdowns. And he wound up scoring two touchdowns last week. He was awesome, so that ticket hit. And the last one, which I felt as though that was really going to hit, that was the that Aaron Rodgers to throw 3 touchdown passes and the Packers to win, and that hit. Aaron Rodgers, he was just throwing the ball just to Aaron Jones. I had Devontae Adams. It was definitely frustrating seeing that, because I thought Adams was his best friend, and it seems like Jones definitely was like his best friend, so that definitely was frustrating. And those 3 legs hit on the parlay, and the one that did not hit, which I felt as though that was going to hit, was the Ben Roethlisberger to throw 2 touchdowns and for Pittsburgh to win the game. They were going up against the Raiders, and the Raiders that they were coming off of a really great that win versus the Ravens, and like they were traveling from cross country over to the east side, and I just felt as though that the Raiders, they were going to be tired, like they were going to just be hyped off of that their last win, and they were going to like just lose focus. I actually felt as though Najee Harris was actually going to have a bounce back game, and Steelers offense, they would be on that clicking, and that's really not what happened for Najee Harris. Just really couldn't run the ball effectively. He could catch very well, definitely can catch. That scored a passing touchdown, and at the goal line, I really thought Ben was actually going to throw a touchdown pass, and here comes Juju Smith-Schuster on that wide out sweep, and and he scores for a touchdown. Roethlisberger is just getting knocked down. Offensive line just isn't trying to protect him. Just like just throwing too many deep shots. Like I understand that you're trying to get Claypool involved, trying to get him going, and that's fine, but you gotta do what works for you, and that's the short passes, trying to run the ball, trying to throw like the intermediate routes, then the deep shots, like they'll come. Like they'll definitely come, but that was a hurt piece because of that Roethlisberger only had one touchdown, and I believe he had 1 interception. And the Steelers lost the game. They lost the game, and I think that dagger was when Derek Carr heaved up a prayer lob to the Henry Ruggs for like that 60-yard bomb, and that was it. Henry Ruggs is just so fast, man. It's just fast. So that definitely put a damper on the ticket. But it's a new week. It's week 3. We're actually starting to get more deep into the season now. So now all of the stats, data, all that's going to start just to come together now. It's going to start to take form, also take shape. So, let's get down to week 3. So the first game we're going to talk about is the Arizona Cardinals versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Jacksonville was bad, man. Jacksonville was just bad. I'll be honest with you. For this week, I'm not taking nobody. As I said before, Marvin Jones. He has a good matchup. He's pretty much the only person I can actually really say that could have a decent chance of us scoring for the most part. James Robinson, that he got more work last week, but it didn't translate to anything. So I'm off Robinson for this week. Plus, Jacksonville is going to be playing from behind anyway. And I think that the Cardinals they're not taking this game lightly, because I remember last year that they were playing against the Lions, I believe, last year in week 3, and the Lions beat them. I actually want to say that, and they probably took that game lightly though, because the Lions, they were garbage. Like, they were one of the worst teams last year. So this year I know that they're not going to take Jacksonville lightly, so they should be able to get the job done. Who I like for this week, Kyler Murray. Last week I actually did have Kyler Murray on a ticket. for a rushing touchdown. He definitely scored. He actually broke a record too for, I think, quarterback for the most runs, I actually believe. Probably for the franchise, probably. I would have to go back and actually see it, but that he broke a record last week. So like those are type of other things you actually want to look for. Any type of that motivation that regards to like a certain player, you actually definitely want to target for a touchdown, because they're going to try their best to definitely break it. Kyler Murray is a best bet to like score every week. And before I started the video, I actually went through some of the odds. I believe they had the odds up for that. Hold on real quick. Let me make sure, because I don't want to tell y'all that odds are up for that game and they're not up for that game. But there are a couple of odds up for some of the games, and I'll definitely tell y'all, but it's not for every game. Normally all that touchdown odds normally are out on Friday afternoon, and all the odds definitely that fluctuate from like now up until Sunday, so like things change. But for what I've noticed is that to get the best odds is actually on that Sunday. So like that Deandre Hopkins, I believe in week 1 when he was supposed to play the Titans, Thursday and Friday he was at a minus 110, I actually believe. But on Sunday, FanDuel had him at a plus of that 105. That's a gift, you know what I mean? Because he scored two touchdowns. So I would normally wait on a Sunday, you know what I mean? Because it might be like a certain player that they actually might be favorites to score. And then you check back, then it might change to a plus. So that's always good. Speaking of DeAndre Hopkins, I actually love DeAndre Hopkins for this week. Like, DeAndre Hopkins has a terrific matchup. Which, by the way, too, let me backtrack because I'm moving too fast for y'all. Along with Kyler Murray, take a shot on Chase Edmonds. Now, hey, I said Chase Edmonds last week. Take a shot on him. One of these games, Chase Edmonds will pop off. I mean, I don't know as to when he will, but just one of these games, he will pop off. This would be the week to like definitely pop off, only because Jags are at 25th versus the run. So the Jags are horrible on the run. And they're 23rd versus running backs. And also that they're also 23rd versus quarterbacks. So this puts Kyler Murray in a smash spot, and this puts Chase Edmonds in a smash spot too. Now, in between the two, I'm always going to bank on Kyler Murray to always get that rushing touchdown. Even if he doesn't get that touchdown, I'm going to still bet that, because he's normally like their goal line guy anyway, right? So I like Kyler Murray. Take a shot on Chase Edmonds. As I said, one of these games, he's definitely going to pop off. And he catches passes. I know James Conner normally may take like a goal line or two. You could try and throw him in there if you really want to, honestly. But just Chase Edmonds and that Kyler Murray for the most part. Now, going back to my favorite play, DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is going up against that Jaguars 27th pass defense. Like, they're horrible over on the run, and they're horrible even on the pass. And they're 19 versus wideouts. You know what I mean? So it's not terrible, but they're not good either. You feel me? So DeAndre Hopkins is definitely in a smash spot. He will be playing on the left side 82% of the time. So that means he'll be going up against CJ Henderson. Now, CJ Henderson didn't play last week because of a groin injury. He hasn't practiced yet for this week. So we should check back tomorrow to see if he's practiced. If he doesn't practice tomorrow, he's probably going to be out. A groin injury can be tough to really play with. So I'm expecting for him to be out. The Jacksonville Jaguars just signed that Nevin Lawson to their roster. Nevin Lawson isn't anybody you should worry about. Honestly, DeAndre Hopkins is a sure thing. He's basically matchup proof. If I was betting on DeAndre Hopkins, I would bet DeAndre Hopkins anytime touchdown, and also for the Arizona Cardinals to win. We'll see what happens when the odds come out for that, but you can do that because they actually have a that double parlay over on Fanduel. That might be a negative. If it is, it might be a minus 110, maybe a minus 115. So if you're gonna go with that, I would definitely parlay that piece with actually like another couple of other pieces. But I love at DeAndre Hopkins, and also when the Hopkins used to play for the Houston Texans, he actually has that history facing the Jacksonville Jaguars because they're in the that same division. So in 6 games in 3 years, 2017, 2018, 2019, he actually played for the Texans. He actually saw the Jaguars 6 games in 3 years, and with his stats is 72 targets, 39 catches, 420 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So that lets you know he normally dominates Jacksonville for the most part. He normally does. And, I'm expecting for that Hopkins to definitely dominate for this week. I actually love him for this week's matchup is actually great. And also even if CJ Henderson plays, he was terrible. He actually gave up 0.400 fantasy points. So it's a really great matchup for Hopkins for this week. It's not really too much to really say. You're really either going with Kyler Murray, Hopkins, maybe Chase Edmonds if you like him. Once again, I'm not taking nobody on the Jags, but if you felt comfortable with Marvin Jones maybe getting a late touchdown because Trevor Lawrence is definitely going to be throwing the ball, then yeah, sure. And if you wanted to go deeper, DJ Chark possibly. He actually should be back for this week. He practiced fully, but I'm not expecting much for this Jacksonville's defense. So on over to the next game, we're going to talk about the Indianapolis Colts versus the Tennessee Titans, and there's a lot to talk about for the Titans side, but for the Colts side, they're not going to have Carson Wentz. I mean, let's just be honest. Carson Wentz sprained both of his the ankles. So they're probably going to start Jacob Easton, I actually believe. And, I mean, it's not looking good for the Colts at all. It's really not. I mean, if you wanted to take a shot because you it's a division game, and if the Colts are desperate here, you could look at Jonathan Taylor. Tennessee really isn't good over on the run, and they're not good on their pass game, but you're really banking on for the Colts to ground pound like their run game, Jonathan Taylor to have like a serious, great, perfect type of game. You're expecting for Easton to have a decent game. You're expecting for Pittman to break like a long yard touchdown, something. I'm just staying away from all Colts. That this week. But over on the Titans, Derrick Henry, man. I mean, last week Derrick Henry was just a train wreck. Three touchdowns. He touched the ball, I believe, was it 41 times, I believe. Because he had 30 something carries and 6 pass receptions or something. It was just crazy. It really was just crazy, and he nearly had 200 yards. So Derrick Henry is a beast. He's actually going. He's facing the Colts 18th ranked run defense, and they're 10th against running backs. So it's a middle of the pack matchup for him, but it's not great, but it's not bad either. And we know Derrick Henry has had a lot of success versus the Colts. So let me give you this stat too. 6 games and in 3 years, 2018, 2019, 2020 versus the Colts. That's 112 carries, 651 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Listen, Derrick Henry is definitely going to beast on the Colts. There's just no trying to stop him, and you can't really deny that. I don't think that the Colts have anybody that can really stop Derrick Henry, because he can bully you, just run you over, and he has a mean stiff arm. So I like Derrick Henry for this week, but what I really love are the wideouts. And I love A.J. Brown, and I do like that Julio Jones. I'm going to talk about Julio first. Julio definitely had a great game last week. I know a lot of people that they was worried. It was like, hey, does Julio have anything left? He looks washed up. Him and Tannehill, that they wasn't in sync. And you got to understand, it was just one game. And that Julio really came out. He actually said, hey, this is all on me. I actually gotta do better. The mistakes, they're petty, So in week 2, he actually balled out. He had over, I think, 100 yards, six catches, and he should have had a touchdown. Anybody that saw that touchdown catch, it was an amazing catch, and that his foot was actually still in bounds. His foot didn't touch that white hasher, and it wasn't out of bounds. So they robbed him of his first touchdown as a Titan. I do like Julio to score. It really seemed as though Tannehill is going to look his way more. Definitely, he's a threat. He definitely is a threat. He ain't a bum. That Julio will be on the left side. That's 65% of the time. Xavier Rhodes, it doesn't look like he will play. He did practice on a limited basis, but just because he practiced on a limited basis, it doesn't automatically mean that he's going to play on Sunday. So he is dealing with a calf injury, and I'm pretty sure, though, he isn't that fully healthy. So he'll probably see TJ carry over there. And the Colts are middle of the pack on the pass, 17th versus the pass, but they're 27th versus wideouts. So they do give up a lot of points to the wideout position. When that Julio used to play for the Falcons, he actually played the Colts in that 2019. This was in week 3. He actually played for the Falcons. He had 9 targets, 8 catches, and 128 yards and a touchdown. So that lets me know, and it should let you know, Julio should be doing damage in this game. I don't think that there's a corner on the Colts that can stop him, slow him down, or anything. So, and the Titans don't have a pass rush. They actually really don't. So that Julio should do very well Sunday. Definitely like him to score a touchdown. But the one guy that I love is actually A.J. Brown. That I love A.J. Brown for this week. A.J. Brown last week, he didn't have his best game. He had a bad game. And, he had took to Twitter saying, because a family member texted him, called him, whatever, saying, hey, and you couldn't even catch COVID. So he thought that was funny. I thought that was kind of funny too. And also that he also said too for this week that his his mistakes, like they're all on him. He had a lot going on. Because he just thinks about making all of these different types of plays. And his drops had become an issue, and that his head coach, that Vrabel, he has said that there are the characteristic drops, shouldn't be doing this. We're expecting top-notch the level type of a deduction from him. He's a top 10 wideout on the AJ Brown. You know what I mean? So that his coach definitely have him to a higher standard, and the AJ Brown knows as to what he has to do. AJ Brown's going to be on the right hand side 46% of the time. He's going to see Rocky Sin, and that is a tough matchup. He actually gives up 0.190 fantasy points, but he also plays in the slot 39% of the time, and that's where he'll see Kenny Moore. And that Kenny Moore is awful. He gave up 0.650 fantasy points. I mean, that's a smash spot as soon as he goes over to the slot, and you know that they're going to find different ways to definitely have Brown have really good mismatches. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to do everything possible. Do I think that the whole offense can thrive? Yeah. Like there's enough to that go around. And with AJ Brown's stats in 4 games and in 2 years versus the Colts, that's in 2019 and in 2020, 4 games and in 2 years versus the Colts, 19 targets, 11 catches, and 189 yards and a touchdown. I know that's not great numbers, but it's actually something. So that lets me know he actually can do something. But I love AJ Brown to definitely correct his mistakes from the past couple of weeks, definitely from last week, and to get back on track with actually scoring a touchdown. And another thing, Ryan Tannehill. I'm definitely hoping for Ryan Tannehill to have I want to say a breakout game, because he's looked awful in the past 2 games. Like, he's looked awful. He just hasn't been doing it. But I think that this matchup versus the Colts is definitely a matchup he actually can get right in. So I love AJ Brown. I like Julio Jones, and I like Derrick Henry to all score a touchdown. Whichever one you actually want to go with, I would parlay that anytime touchdown, Derrick Henry, that Julio Jones, AJ Brown, and also for the Titans to win the game. I actually really do think Tennessee should be able to win this game. I don't think that the Colts have enough to actually win this game, but hey, it's the NFL. Anything can happen. I think that the Colts will be desperate to actually try and get a win, because this is a divisional game. But I do think in the end, Titans will prevail. The next game that we'll talk about is the LA Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a division game, and this should definitely be a shootout. These are 2 defenses that are horrible. I don't know which one to really talk about first, because I love both sides. But let's go with the LA Chargers. First, we're going to talk about Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is in a smash spot. I'm talking about capital SMASH exclamation point smash spot. And why? He's playing against the Chiefs' 32nd run defense. They're dead last versus the run. And if you saw the Chiefs play, I think their week 1 that they were playing against the Browns, and you saw what Nick Chubb and what Kareem Hunt did to them. And if you saw last week's matchup with the Ravens versus the Chiefs can't stop nobody on the run. They can't stop nobody. I mean, Jackson, Tyson, Latavius Murray, Devonta Freeman, they was just running it up on the Chiefs defense. And it was getting me mad because I'm like, y'all just can't stop anybody. And you know what Austin Eckler actually likes to do. He likes to catch the ball, which no linebacker on the Chiefs can catch him. And also he's a goal line back too. So he's a runner. Like, you know, and he fights for the extra yards. I don't know if you saw the game last week versus Dallas, but I mean, Austin Eckler put on a show. Even though he didn't score, the dude was out there putting in work. And the Chiefs are 29th versus running backs. So this is a great matchup for Austin Eckler. I like Eckler to definitely score. I actually really do, because like, you know, like the offensive line over on the Chargers is actually decent, and the front line for Kansas City is just not good on the run. So I like Eckler to definitely score. I like Keenan Allen. I like Mike Williams. Chiefs are 20th versus the pass, and they're 13th versus wideouts. It's a solid matchup. You know, it ain't good and it ain't bad either. You know, and I think with Keenan Allen does have a tough matchup. He actually will be in the slot 70% of the time, so he's going to face Jarius Sneed. He actually gave up 0.200 fantasy points against. And yeah, it's a tough matchup, but it's Keenan Allen, man. Keenan Allen is actually one of the best route runners in the entire league. He has really solid hands. You know, the only knock on him is that he just doesn't score touchdowns. And I think Allen can score a touchdown. He hasn't scored yet this season, but I really do think he actually can score. Mike Williams, he has one half he has a good matchup, the other half he has a bad matchup. So the bad matchup is on the right hand side. He will see Mike Hughes. Williams plays on the right hand side 39% of the time, and that Hughes actually has been pretty good for this year. He's actually gave up 0.240 fantasy points against. And the only thing is that Mike Williams has the height advantage, and Williams is 6'3", Hughes is only 5'11". So yeah, that the matchup screams it's a tough matchup, but maybe, just maybe, Williams can win because of his height. On the left hand side, he'll be on the left 45% of the time. He will see Travarius Ward. Ward gives up 0.460 fantasy points against. So that's a smash spot for Mike Williams. And I think that Williams has a really good shot at scoring, definitely doing some damage. But I think that they're going to do their best to definitely get Keenan Allen more involved. And it's going to be a shootout, guys. I mean, expect a lot of scoring. Hey, if you even like Jared Cook, you can sprinkle Jared Cook in there. You know, he could go off for a really good game. But the Chiefs normally do good versus tight ends for the most part. But hey, you just never know. Justin Herbert normally looks his way anyway. On the Chiefs side, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. I mean, it's either you're going to stop Kelce or you're going to stop Hill. You actually can't stop both. Like, it's impossible to do that. I mean, we saw it last week. You know, that Ravens took away at Tyreek Hill, and that Travis Kelce went off. You know, so it's more like a back and forth. 1 week Hill pops off, the other week Kelce pops off. Then there's games where both of them pop off. You know, but it's like very, very rarely do you see both Kelce and Hill not pop off. You know, you're going to get basically one or the other. I like Tyreek Hill. Now, it is a tough matchup because the Chargers are 4th versus the pass, and they're 2nd versus wideouts. So this is a tough matchup. But when you're Tyreek Hill, who is the fastest wideout in the league and can't nobody catch you because he does deuces, you gotta fire him up for a touchdown. He got shut out last week. Like, Ravens did a good job blanketing him to not do anything. And for Tyreek Hill, he will be on the right hand side 37% of the time. He will see Asante Samuel Jr. That's a rookie. And he gave up 0.330 fantasy points against. That's a good matchup. Tyreek Hill should be able to dominate like this rookie. He definitely should be able to. He shouldn't have a problem. He also will go to the slot 46% of the time. He will see Chris Harris Jr. Now, Chris Harris Jr., he did not play last week due to a shoulder injury. I don't think he practiced, and if he did, it was probably limited. I don't think Chris Harris will probably play for this week, but that we'll find out tomorrow for that Chargers on the injury report to see as to who practiced and as to who didn't. But I'm expecting for Tyreek Hill definitely to pop off. It's a home game too for Kansas City, so that crowd's going to get hyped. Tyreek Hill definitely should be able to break for like a 60-70 yard bomb touchdown, because he's just too fast. Nobody can catch him for real. And in 5 games and in 3 years versus the Chargers, 2018, 2019, 2020, he has had 31 targets, 22 catches, 375 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So his career stats for right now already show you he can do damage to this Chargers defense. I don't care if Derwin James is actually out there. I mean, that Derwin James hasn't played in the past 2 years. He has looked all right so far, but you get a real test and that Tyreek Hill, and I think Tyreek Hill is matchup proof. I actually really do think so, just because of his speed and just with his that catch after the yards. He can catch the ball very well. He's just a beast. So I like Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is just a god. He's just a god, man. He's just unguardable. He's just matchup proof. And Chargers are 17th versus tight ends, so they're a little bit below average facing tight ends. And in 5 games and in 3 years versus the Chargers, 2018, 2019, 2020, he has had 44 targets, 27 catches, 273 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's actually solid versus the Chargers. I already said it. They're probably going to have Derwin James on Travis Kelce, but Travis Kelce can move a little bit. He can move, and he's a big body, and the dude has really terrific hands. He actually can catch the ball very, very well. If you want to take a shot, you can take a shot on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, I get it. Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbled the ball last week versus the Ravens. And then, the Ravens, they got the ball and they won the game. And that was a suspect play call because, I understand you're trying to run the clock and kick the field goal, but, you can't forget, when you had Patrick Mahomes, who is one of the elite top quarterbacks, you use Patrick Mahomes to actually, to win you the game, and I think that Pat Mahomes realized that, and I think that he's actually going to come out balling. But with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Chargers are just god awful on the run too. Chargers are a 30th versus the run, and they're 24th versus running backs. So, if you saw last week, Zeke and Tony Pollard, especially Tony Pollard, who was just catching the ball, just running, he just looked more explosive than Zeke. And I know Zeke scored last week. He had a solid game, but it's just Tony Pollard he just looked different out there. And I think, and I think that people can actually say the same. He just looked really good out out there. And, like the offensive line is good for the Chiefs. So, Chargers don't have a good run defense. They don't have any good linebackers. So, yeah, I think Clyde Edwards, Larry, the dude doesn't fumble. So I actually wouldn't overreact to this. It's his first fumble. Andy Reid already came out and said earlier, I'm not worried about his fumbles. Travis Kelce gave him words of encouragement, so I actually do think that the Edwards-Helaire is actually in a good spot to bounce back and to probably definitely score a touchdown. Once again, that this game is going to be back and forth. Like, there's really going to be no defense in this game. Like, I'm talking about when Kansas City scores, the defense won't even be out there for real. Like, you'll just have that Chargers offense out there basically, because it's basically like a back and forth type of game, back and forth. So in the next game that we're going to talk about, I like the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, let's talk about the let's go with the Steelers, because for the Steelers, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. Roethlisberger's dealing with a pec injury. He's trying his best to play that game. He'll probably play. Deontay Johnson looks like he is probably not going to play. He's dealing with a knee injury. He actually got hurt on the last play in the game of week 2, so that's a bummer. Chase Claypool didn't show up. Juju had a solid game. Najee Harris, he was solid too. But if Deontay Johnson does play, if he does play, which I highly doubt it because of the knee, but if he does play, he'll be on the left-hand side 52% of that time. He actually will see Chidobe Awuzie. Excuse me. He gave up 0.340 fantasy points. Now, and if Johnson doesn't play, you're probably going to put James Washington over on that side. So you could take a shot on James Washington if Johnson doesn't play. Juju, on the other hand, has a terrific smash spot matchup. He will be in the slot 82% of the time. He's actually going to face Mike Hilton. He used to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hilton gives up 0.500 fantasy points. This is a terrific spot. And Juju has the height. Juju's 6'1". Hilton's only 5'9". So if Johnson's out, you can fire up Juju, you know what I mean? Because they're going to try and have creative ways definitely to get him the ball. Definitely better make, there's some explosive plays. And Chase Claypool, I think he has a really good matchup too, along with Juju. Chase will be on the right-hand side 46% of the time. He will see Eli Apple. Eli Apple gives up 0.36 fantasy points against. Like, this is a really good matchup. Claypool is 6'4". Apple is only 6'1". So, yeah, it's a height disadvantage. And, you saw last week, Ben, he was really throwing the deep ball a lot last week, trying to get it to Claypool. But it just didn't try to connect. It just wasn't working. And I felt as though that they were taking just too many deep shots. Roethlisberger's arm isn't young anymore. So they need to get back to the basics, and that's running the ball, because, this offensive line is just not that good, and they need to get better, definitely. So they need to focus on trying to run the football and just stick to the intermediate and the short passes. Like, the deep passes, they will come, but you can't look for the deep pass every single time. It's just not going to work, And the Bengals are 9th versus the pass. Don't let that scare you. Trust me. Just because Bengals are top 10 versus the pass, they are at 21st versus wideouts. Trust me, that 9th pass defense, that is definitely deceiving. Definitely. I already told you, Juju and also Chase, that they have really good matchups. And Johnson has a good matchup, or James Washington. So don't let that scare you, and don't let that fool you. Please don't. You can also go with Najee Harris. if Johnson's out, as I said 3 to 4 times already, they're definitely going to go to Harris. You already saw Harris last week catching a lot of passes, and also that he actually caught a pass for a touchdown. Once he caught the pass, the dude was just running. He was just running. Nobody couldn't tackle him, and he got into the end zone. So there is enough to definitely go around in this offense. On the Bengals side, I'm not going with Joe Mixon at all. I'm not doing it. Steelers have a good run defense, and they are dealing with some injuries too on the defensive side too. So T.J. Watt's hurt, Devin Bush is hurt, and Joe Hayden's hurt. They got a couple of guys that are hurt, but they're still good on the run, and I'm not trusting any Joe Mixon for this week. But let's talk about the wideouts. Now, T. Higgins, he is dealing with a shoulder injury. He may play, but then again, he may not play. But if the Higgins does play, he will be all over the field. He actually plays on the left-hand side 30% of the time. On the right-hand side, 39% of the time. And actually, that's when he will see Joe Hayden. And also, he plays on the slot 31% of the time. But going back to his matchup versus Joe Hayden, Hayden is dealing with a groin injury. Hayden didn't play last week. And the Hayden has been pretty good, 0.180 fantasy points against. But it was only in one game. He didn't play in the last game. And it remains to be seen and if he's going to play. Higgins is 6'4". Hayden is 5'11". So the Higgins does have that height advantage against Hayden. I like Higgins I actually like Higgins and if he plays. Jamar Chase has a good matchup. He will be on the left-hand side 41% of the time. He will see Cameron Sutton. Sutton gives up 0.340 fantasy points. I think that this is a good matchup for Jamar Chase. He actually is a rookie, but for right now, he actually has been balling right about now. But I think that the best matchup, and I said this last week too, but he's back for another great matchup, and then that's Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd had a really solid game last week. But I think that this is an even better matchup for real. I know that the Bengals, that they were trailing late in on that Bears game. They just tried to make a late comeback. But this is a divisional game. This is another divisional game. We got so many divisional games for this week. It's just crazy. But this is definitely one of them. I'm expecting a shootout over on here. But Tyler Boyd plays over up in the slot. 95% of the time he will see Trey Norwood. Norwood gives up 0.310 fantasy points against. This is a smash spot. Steelers are at 29th versus the pass, and they're 25th versus wideouts. Steelers are just not that good. And last year they were one of the better defenses even on the pass. And this year they're dealing with injuries, and just guys are just not really, they're just really not doing it for him for right now. So I like Tyler Boyd a lot. I actually like Higgins if he plays. I like Jamar Chase. Again, I'm not going with no Mixon. I'm not doing it. So, and I'm expecting a back and forth game. Back and forth. The next game is the Atlanta Falcons versus the New York Giants. And, for those who don't know, I'm a Giants fan. I am. And, I got my own personal opinion about the Giants, though, but I don't need to get all up into that. We could say that for like another day. But I'm expecting a back and forth game on this, too. These are two terrible defenses for the most part. The Giants are just a little bit better on defense versus the Falcons, though, but they're still not good. Let's talk about the Giants, man, first. You can factor in Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, he's in the mix. He will rush for a touchdown. Like, you've seen it last last week. He actually will run the ball too, so Daniel Jones has a decent shot at scoring. Take a shot on Saquon Barkley. I mean, in the past 2 games, he's coming off of an ACL injury. They're trying to keep him fresh, trying to keep him healthy. They've been limiting his reps over in practice, and he is out there on the field for majority of the game, for majority of the snaps. And you saw last week he actually broke a 41-yard that rushing, and he looked good for he actually looked good. He actually looked explosive to me, and you could take a shot on him. Falcons are 24th versus the run. They're bad, and they're 20th versus running backs. And I know that this could be Barkley's breakout game, and it could be, but just temper expectations for Barkley, only because you don't know how the Giants they're actually going to game plan Barkley. You know what I mean? Until they say, hey, Barkley's a full go, he doesn't have any more, we're not going to limit him in any type of way, then you fire him up. But just be cautious on Barkley for this week. I already know that the matchup is great. It is a great, terrific matchup. But don't be mad if Barkley doesn't score. You feel me? Just don't be mad at that. Just temper expectations. And you also got to remember, Daniel Jones also will take some of the carries too. He even could take a goal line carry too. So just be cautious of that. The wideouts, that's where they should have a lot of the success. It actually looks like they're going to get Evan Ingram back for this week. So that's definitely good, because that's going to take away a lot of attention to Sterling Shepard, that Kenny Galladay, and Darius Slayton. And the Falcons are 19th versus the pass, and they're 22nd versus wideouts. So they're not good. I like Sterling Shepard for this week. Can Sterling Shepard score a touchdown? Yes, he actually can, but just like Keenan Allen, he's not a touchdown maker. He's more of a possession type of wideout. But I like Kenny Galladay for this week. Now, yeah, Kenny Galladay is dealing with a hip injury. Kenny Galladay normally tries to play through his injuries, hence Detroit. And with Kenny Galladay, it's been rough for him. You know what I mean? They gave him a really big contract to be that number 1 alpha wideout over on the Giants, and so far it just hasn't looked that way. And last week he was yelling at offensive coordinator Jason Garrett. People thought though he was actually yelling at Daniel Jones, but no, he actually wasn't. He was yelling at Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett hasn't gotten him involved. Kenny Galladay, he has been getting targets from Daniel Jones, but Kenny Galladay, he actually wants a few more looks. He actually wants the offense to run through him a little bit, And I think that this is a good week for him to get himself going, because with him yelling at his offensive coordinator, he was in his feelings, emotions, and he knows that the offensive coordinators and the head coaches, they do the very best that they can to try and get all of their guys involved. And I think that they're going to make it a necessity to actually get him involved. And Galladay will be on the left-hand side 58% of the time. He actually will see Fabian Monroe. Fabian Monroe, he has been god-awful, gives up 0.530 fantasy points. And on top of that, Fabian's only 6'1", Kenny Galladay 6'4". So if Galladay's hip injury doesn't hamper his production, I like Galladay to definitely have a really nice game and to possibly score a touchdown for this week. But temper expectations for Galladay, all because of the hip injury. I'm trying to tell you guys, like there's nothing worse than picking a player that is dealing with an injury and you want them to score, and you're watching the game and then they have to come out and they don't come back to the game because that injury started bothering them. Yes, I actually do like Kenny Galladay, but I'm tempering expectations on him because of his injury. Now, if you want to say Darius Slayton, because last week he actually dropped a wide open touchdown pass. Like, I don't know how you don't catch that. If you want to go with Darius Slayton, then sure, you can definitely take a chance on him, though, because he's a deep threat. And he did score last week, but he also could have scored again last week in the same game versus Washington. Sterling Shepard, he has a good chance too. Evan Ingram also has a good chance too. But temper expectations for him too, because this is like his first game coming back. So it remains to be seen as to what's really going to happen for though, because this will be like the first time that they have all of their weapons all at once. So against this Falcons team, it will be interesting to see as to who is the primary target now, since now you have everybody back. On the Falcons side, I like Calvin Ridley and I like Kyle Pitts. Now, Giants are 25th versus the pass, and they're 20th versus wideouts, and the Giants are 28th versus tight ends. So this is a smash spot for Kyle Pitts. And Kyle Pitts in last week, he actually stepped up last week. He actually didn't score, but he was active in the game, catching the passes, getting the yards. Ryan was definitely looking towards his way. And Calvin Ridley will be shadowed by James Bradberry. Sorry, y'all. It's nighttime right now. I'm tired. I'm sorry, y'all. But Calvin Ridley will be shadowed by James Bradberry. James Bradberry, he is one of the good corners in the entire league. He's definitely the Giants' number one corner. So he's definitely going to shadow Calvin Ridley. And Bradberry got lit up last week versus that Terry McLaurin. But with Terry is fast. He's actually shifty. Calvin Ridley's not like Terry for real. You know what I mean? He is fast though, but he's not as fast. He's not as quick. Not as agile. You feel me? So Bradberry should have a better time for real. Bradberry gives up 0.310 fantasy points. So it's a good matchup for Calvin Ridley. It definitely is, because we know Calvin Ridley is actually one of the best wideouts, and it's been times where Ridley has had his way versus really good cornerbacks anyway. So I do like Calvin Ridley, but I like Kyle Pitts even more, man. I mean, with the Giants just not being able to guard any tight ends whatsoever, Pitts is still searching for his first touchdown, and I think that this is the week that he can get his first touchdown. They're going to be airing the ball out anyway. You feel me? So it's like, as to who are you going to throw it to? You're going to throw it to Ridley, and you're going to throw it to Pitts. You really don't have any other options. Russell Gage, he is dealing with an injury, so you got to check back to see as to if he's playing. He probably will play, but just temper expectations for him, because the dude's hurt. And take a shot on Mike Davis. I mean, he has not been good in the past two games. Last week, they actually went with Cordell Patterson, the Falcons did. And, Patterson looked really great. A lot of people may be flocking to him, but the Falcons paid Mike Davis a lot of money to be like the lead back, I believe. They're trying to give him a shot, and they're trying to give him every opportunities possible. And the Giants are 21st versus the run, and they're 25th versus running backs. So the Giants cannot stop running backs at all. Like, they just really can't for real. And, Davis is a good runner. He's a solid pass catcher. And if he can get some goal line work, he can punch one in for a touchdown. But a lot of people are just not going to be on him because that they actually probably will flock to Patterson, and it's 1 week. I mean, don't overreact to this. I like Mike Davis for this week. Once again, I'm expecting for this game to be a back and forth type of game. The next game is the Tampa Bay Bucks versus the LA Rams, and this might be the game of the week. Honestly, this is going to be a really great game. I mean, two good defenses going at it, and then with two explosive offenses. I mean, Jesus, But let's talk about the Buccaneers first. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and also Gronk and Antonio Brown is on the COVID list, so he may not play. He probably won't play for this week. So it's going to be more open targets for that both receivers and also Gronk too. Maybe OJ Howard, maybe Cameron Brate, maybe who actually knows. I don't want to forget about that Scotty Miller, but there's definitely going to be some open targets if Brown doesn't play. Rams are 11th versus the pass, and they're 12th versus wideouts. They're good. They're good versus the wideouts, And it's surprising to me because Jalen Ramsey plays over up in the slot, and that's where Chris Godwin, he will be at 73% of the time. Ramsey gives up 0.240 fantasy points against. So this is a tough matchup for Godwin. Jalen Ramsey is one of the elite corners. Actually, you could probably argue he is the best corner in the entire league. You could argue that, I think that this is a tough matchup for Godwin. But hey, Godwin has Brady's trust, and Godwin is a solid route runner. He can catch the ball pretty decently, But I think that the real matchup to target is actually Mike Evans. I'm sorry, Mike Evans, that's my guy. I'm sorry, he is that one wide out I would bet every week just to score a touchdown. Even if he doesn't score, I would still bet him because he's just a red zone threat. It's just him and Adam Thielen. Those are two guys that I love betting on because they're red zone threat guys, and they just score touchdowns for real. And Mike Evans, he'll be on the left hand side 49% of the time, so that means he'll see David Long. It's a tough matchup. Long gives up 0.250 fantasy points against, but Long is 5'11", Mike Evans is 6'5", so that height, that's a huge height difference. So I think that if Brown is actually out because of COVID, he's going to look Evans' way a little bit more, and I think that's really going to help considering the fact that we just saw Mike Evans pop off last week. I actually do think that Evans can pop off again for this week. And the Rams are 20th versus tight ends, so Gronk is off to a hot blazing fire start. 4 touchdowns, and in 2 games he's a beast, and hey, as I said, with Brown probably not playing for this game, it's going to open up a lot more targets. So if they're in the red zone, you're going to target Gronk, you're going to target Mike Evans, so I like those guys for real. And going back to Mike Evans, in 2 games in 2 years, which is in 2019 and in 2020 versus the Rams, Evan has 16 targets, 9 catches, and 138 yards, and also 2 touchdowns. It's a small sample size, but Mike Evans can do something versus this Rams defense. I like him. I actually really do. And take a shot. I know. I said this last week, and I'm going to say it again. This is the same thing with Chase Edmonds. Take a shot on Ronald Jones. I get it. Listen, Ronald Jones has not looked good at all. He has not looked good. is it's a murky situation over there when you got Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, Giovanni Bernard, right? So, and last week, Arians said, hey, all of my running backs, they're all quote-unquote starters. And that just made me just shake my head, because it's like, hey, you just gave Ronald Jones confidence and you named him the starter and he ain't doing anything like that. And then you say 3 of your running backs, they're all starters now. I mean, it's just like, come on, dude. You got to pick one. Like, which is it? And the Rams are 20th versus the run, but they're 12th versus running back. So this is an average matchup, and you're just really hoping that Ronald Jones can just get it together, because it's going to come. It's definitely going to come very, very soon, where Arians is going to say, hey, Leonard Fournette is actually our starter, and if Fournette starts, and if he comes in looking good, that would be the end of Ronald Jones. And then Ronald Jones is actually in a contract year. So if you're in a contract year, you should want to ball out. You should want to show out. So I hope that he's watching this video, because Ronald Jones definitely needs to step up in the worst way possible for this week. I think that he can do it. I'm saying take a shot on it. He has the potential to do it. He has shown the flashes, but he's just too inconsistent. But if this was the time, this is the time for this week. On the Rams, Daryl Henderson probably looks like he is not going to play, dealing with a rib injury, and that rib injury looks to be kind of serious. I mean, just rib injuries are just difficult, honestly, because you can't really breathe right. Like, that every time when you breathe, like, your ribs hurt. You got to move, and that hurts for real. And we're not even talking about dealing with a tackle. It's a lot of pain dealing with like a rib injury. So he may be out, and I'm expecting for Tampa Bay to be up for the most part. And I'm expecting for Matt Stafford to just throw the ball. So I don't have to explain to you Cooper Kupp. I mean, Cooper Kupp has been dominant, in the past 2 games. Like, nobody can beat him. Obviously, defenses don't know where he's at, because he's wide open, back-to-back weeks. So I don't know what defenses are doing, but that he's going up against the Bucks' 30th pass defense, and the Bucks are 31st versus wideouts. God awful. So expect Matthew Stafford to just be throwing the ball to Cooper Kupp and also to Robert Woods that I like. So Cooper Kupp, he'll be in the slot 68% of the time. He has a smash spot. He has a smash matchup. He's playing against Ross Cockrell. He actually gives up 0.670 fantasy points. I mean, that is a smash spot for Cooper Kupp. But I think that the Buccaneers are going to pay a little bit more attention to Cooper Kupp and to take away like his deep threat ability. That's just me personally, because you want to take away like the best target, which is fine. But you also can't forget about Robert Woods, who is a good wideout. And yes, Robert Woods hasn't lived up to expectations in the past 2 games, but I think that this is a game that he can get right in. He will be on the right-hand side 40% of the time. He will see Carlton Davis. Now, yes, it is a tough matchup. Davis gives up 0.290 fantasy points against, but hey, the ball's got to go somewhere, right? So I like Robert Woods for this week. And in 2 games and in 2 years versus the Bucks, it's a small sample size, but he has 28 targets, 25 catches, 294 yards, and a touchdown. And with Kupp, the same thing for him. 29 targets, 20 catches, 266 yards, and a touchdown. So yeah, I like both of these guys, but I like Robert Woods just a little bit more, only because that I think personally that they're going to try their best to, that stock cut, definitely slow him down as much as possible because he has been a beast. Now, take a shot on Tyler Higby. The Bucks are 22nd versus tight ends. They are not good versus tight ends. I like Tyler Higby. Everybody was on Tyler Higby last week versus the versus the Colts. He actually didn't deliver, but he has a really good matchup. He can sneak in for a goal line touchdown. So be cautious of him, because though if you're watching the game, or even if you're seeing like that play-by-play, and if they get down to like the 10-yard line, and if you see Matthew Stafford 10-yard touchdown pass to Tyler Higby, don't be mad. Just don't be mad, because I said just take a shot over on Tyler Higby. And this is a really take a shot on two guys. Van Jefferson. Now, Van Jefferson, he will be on the left-hand side 60% of the time. He will see Jamal Dean. That is a good matchup. Dean gives up 0.310 fantasy points against. So, hey, Van Jefferson is a deep threat. Okay, Stafford loves to throw the deep ball. Jefferson could pop off with a long bomb touchdown. He could. You never know. And if you want, I would not recommend this, but if you see it happen, just know as to where you got it from. And that is Deshaun Jackson. Who is he playing against? He's playing against his old team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he's also playing against his old quarterback, Tom Brady. Sean McVay said earlier from this week that I have to get this Deshaun Jackson more involved. He knows Jackson is a burner. You know what I mean? He is up there in his age, but all it takes is just one play. And I said before, Stafford loves to throw the ball deep, and Jackson's specialty is catching the long ball. So, that is a real take a long shot. Like, that's a long shot pick for Jackson to definitely score a touchdown. Could it happen? It definitely can happen. It most definitely can. But hey, you just never know. You just never know. I'm expecting for another back and forth game over up in this one. So this will probably be the best game on the slate. The next game is the Seattle Seahawks versus the Minnesota Vikings. And for the Minnesota Vikings, let's just say, Dalvin Cook, man, he's going up against Seattle's 31st run defense, which they're god-awful, and they're dead last, 32nd versus running backs. They just let Derrick Henry just do anything that he wanted to do. And Derrick Henry is one of the top 3 backs, and Seattle's playing another one of the top 3 backs in back-to-back weeks over in Dalvin Cook. Now, Dalvin Cook didn't practice for 2 days straight. He is dealing with an ankle injury, and you actually saw that his backup Alexander Madison come on in. We know Madison is actually definitely one of the best backups in the league, but Cook should be fine for this game. He is dealing with an injury, and you need your ankle to definitely move. You definitely do. So that may slow him down a bit. Cook hasn't gotten off to the hottest start. You know what I mean? But he's been good so far. He actually gets the volume. He gets the carries. He actually gets the rushes. So I like Dalvin Cook for this week. I like Justin Jefferson, and I like Adam Thielen. As I said before, I would bet Adam Thielen every single week to score a touchdown. He's just a red zone threat for real. That Thielen will be on the right-hand side 49% of the time. He does have a tough matchup versus DJ Reed, who is giving up 0.230 fantasy points against. And the only thing going for Thielen is that not just his route running ability and the way how he can catch the ball, it is the height. Thielen is 6'2", Reed is 5'9", and he is going up against Seattle's 22nd pass defense, but they're 11th versus wideouts. So that is interesting. But I think personally, the Vikings are going to be down, and I think that they're going to just have to just throw the ball. Both of these defenses are really not that good anyway, so this could be another shootout for it's just so many shootouts over in week 3. You will have so many different options to really choose from to just as to who's just going to score touchdowns because it's just so many options. So on the other side, Justin Jefferson, he'll be on the left-hand side 48% of the time. He has a really good matchup versus Trey Flowers. Flowers gives up 0.350 fantasy points against. And Justin Jefferson is a burner, and he is looking for a breakout game. The dude hasn't had a breakout game yet. And I believe last year in week 3, he had a breakout game. That's how people knew about him, which was in week 3. And we're in week 3. So can Justin Jefferson pop off for this week? Yeah. Can Adam Thielen definitely keep his touchdown streak alive? Yeah. And there's no other weapons on that offense. So I don't think that these two wideouts and, Dalvin Cook can be stopped. I actually really don't think so, especially not up in a shootout. Over on the Seattle side, I like Chris Carson for this week. Vikings are 21st versus the run, and they're 16th versus running backs. I'll be honest with you. On paper, it actually looked like that the Vikings were going to be really good on the run. And in the past 2 games, they have not looked good on the run. They actually really haven't, which is very, very surprising. And they have a few guys on that line that are good run stoppers, but just not for this year. I don't know. But hey, Carson had two touchdowns last week. He will catch the passes. He will get the carries. Once again, Rashad Penny is actually going to be out, so Carson pretty much has the backfield to himself. I like Carson for this week. Tyler Lockett has I actually think Tyler Lockett has the best matchup out of this entire slate. Like out of like the 1 o'clock and like the 4 o'clock. I believe the Vikings play at 4. I'm sorry, but even in like the 1 o'clock and also for like the 4 o'clock. Tyler Lockett has the best matchup. Tyler Lockett will be on the right-hand side 53% of the time. He will see Shard Breeland. And if you know about Breeland, he is god horrible. Like, he actually gives up 1.000 fantasy points. He actually gives up 1 fantasy point. Like, god awful. And there was even talk that they may bench him for this week just because he's god awful. I mean, this is like, that's a smash spot for Tyler Lockett. I mean, god damn. And he'll be in the slot 32% of the time. He will see Mackenzie Alexander. He gives up 0.520 fantasy points. Between the right-hand side and the slot, it's a smash spot for Tyler Lockett. I mean, he's definitely one of the best wideouts to actually start the year. I don't see why not. I don't think that the Vikings are going to be able to stop him personally. So he definitely should be fired up for a touchdown for this week. And the Vikings are 26th versus the pass, and they're 30th versus wideouts. And that's really thanks to Breeland. That's really thanks to Breeland, man, because Breeland has looked horrible. I believe, what was it? Last week, A.J. Green scored a touchdown over on Breeland. A.J. Green scored a touchdown. And, A.J. Green's not washed up, but he's not what he used to be. But it's like, damn, dude, like you're that bad, So On the other side, at DK Metcalf, he'll be on the left-hand side 58% of the time. He will see Patrick Peterson. Patrick Peterson is a solid corner. He's not good and he's not terrible, but he's a solid matchup. He actually gives up 0.300 fantasy points against. So it may be a tough matchup for Metcalf, but Metcalf had a down game. I'm expecting for a bounce back game for DK Metcalf. And you seen when last week Deandre Hopkins, he actually had his way with that Patrick Peterson anyway. And on top of that, DK Metcalf, he actually has faced Patrick Peterson over in the past before. Patrick Peterson used to play for the Arizona Cardinals, so they have had history together. So I actually do think Lockett can explode. I actually do like DK Metcalf to definitely score a touchdown for this week. I'm expecting for both defenses to be straight garbage and for both these offenses to be lighting up the scoreboard. The next, that was it. That was all the games that we had for real. But just to always give you some receiving notes, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills versus the Washington football team. And I want to say Josh Allen first. I mean, Josh Allen, he could have scored last week, but they brought that touchdown back. I like Allen to definitely score for this week. You're not trusting any of those running backs, honestly, for Buffalo. Like, you're basically going to trust in Josh Allen. That is their goal line back. That's their go-to weapon when it comes to the red zone, for real. Stefan Diggs, he has a tremendous matchup for this week. I mean, he'll be on the left-hand side 45% of the time. He will see a rookie, Benjamin St. Just. I've never heard of him, but, you know, he is a rookie. He gives up 0.440 fantasy points against. That's a smash spot, and you know Diggs is a burner, you know, so I like for Josh Allen definitely to connect with that Stefan Diggs. I like Cole Beasley. Beasley is actually in a really good matchup. He actually plays the slot 92% of the time. He will see that Kendall Fuller. Fuller gives up 0.350 fantasy points, so it's a solid matchup for Beasley. You know, Beasley can definitely have his ways. They're like a little shifty too. And Emmanuel Sanders, which is a wild card, which I think that they got to get him going. You know, like they see him as the second option to Stefan Diggs. And, you know, Sanders is a burner. Yeah, though he is up there in the age. But, yeah, Sanders can, like, definitely still run. He actually got, because, you know, like the dude has a couple of wheels on him. So he'll see William Jackson on the right-hand side 38% of the time. It's a solid matchup. 0.320 fantasy points allowed. So can Sanders catch a long bomb touchdown? Yeah, sure. You feel me? But I'm really banking on Stefan Diggs to really put in some work on this rookie. Even if Diggs goes over to William Jackson's side, I still like Diggs either way. When they get down to the goal line, I'm expecting for Josh Allen to actually punch one in for the touchdown. Washington is actually 24th versus the pass, so they're not good. And they're 26 versus wideouts. They're not good at all, you know, on this passing game. And they're 23rd on the run, so they're not good on the run either. Like, they're horrible. But Washington is 6th versus running backs, so that is interesting. And Washington has a really good defensive line, but with Josh Allen being the way how he is, I don't think that line is actually going to be able to catch up with him. I don't really think so. And it's a home game, too, for the Bills. So, you know, the Bills, like, they're going to want to show out because they showed out last week, and their defense also showed out, too. Take a look at Darren Waller for next week. Now, yeah, Derek Carr, he actually did get banged up for last week versus Pittsburgh. But, hey, he actually should be a full go for this week. Dolphins are actually 12th versus the pass, and they're 18th versus tight ends. So, I mean, hey, you got to go with Darren Waller. No one else on the Raiders really warrants any type of a consideration. Yeah, I get it. Henry Ruggs, he balled last week. But when you're playing against Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, two of the best duo corners in the league, I don't want any part of that. I actually really don't. So I would definitely take a look at Darren Waller. He is a beast. He's actually always going to get peppered with targets. Doesn't matter if he's double teamed, triple teamed. Derek Carr will find a way to look Darren Waller's way. Cortland Sutton and Noah Fant playing against the Jets. Now, the Jets are 10th versus the pass. Jets are 3rd versus wideouts, and the Jets are 12th versus tight ends. I call bullshit. Seriously, I call bullshit on the Jets defense. I actually really do think that those stats are definitely screwed. I actually don't see how that they're one of the best defenses in the league on the pass. I don't see that. So I'm calling a huge bluff to that defense, honestly. And last week, Cortland Sutton went off last week. The only problem was he ain't scored a touchdown. And that's the type of breakout game Cortland Sutton needed coming off of that ACL injury. So it really looks like that Cortland Sutton is back to his Pro Bowl type of ways. And that he will be on the left-hand side 51% of the time. He will see Brian Eccles, which I believe he is that rookie. Cortland Sutton is 6'3". Eccles is 5'11". So that is a height difference. Eccles has been good. 0.170 fantasy points against, but hey, and I'm calling the bluff on that because I do not believe though that the Jets have a good defense at all. So I'm calling a bluff on that. Plus Teddy Bridgewater definitely does look solid. You saw last week Noah Fant got a touchdown. He was actually really solid. I actually think though that Fant has a really good game again versus the Jets. I didn't talk about this game earlier, but the Ravens and the Lions. Now, I'm not a fan of the wideouts for the Ravens. I'm not a fan of the running backs for the Ravens. I mean, I like Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson can always score a touchdown, so I don't really need to talk about him because it's just Lamar Jackson. You already know he will try to run first, then, pass. But I think that you look at Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews in the past 2 games really hasn't done anything. That the Ravens gave him a really big contract extension. And Anderson is one of the best tight ends in the league. And for you to give him all of this money and not really use him for real, it's absurd. You got to use him. And I think that this is the week where Andrews can have a really good game. The Lions are 21st versus the pass, and they're 19th versus tight ends. So they're not that good. And you saw Robert Tonyan catch a long touchdown pass, which I don't know how he caught that. Aaron Rodgers just zipped it right on to him, past the Lions defender, and then Tonyan just scored. That was crazy. So I think that they have to get Mark Andrews involved here because he's their top weapon. Especially for the passing game, he is. And, when you give him a chance, he is a beast. So I like Mark Andrews for this week. Take a shot. Now, Justin Fields is starting for this week. Andy Dalton is actually going to be out. So this is a caution. Allen Robinson facing the other Cleveland Browns. Yeah, Justin Fields looked to Allen Robinson's way a lot last week. But Fields also ran the ball 10 times. He actually threw the ball for 60 yards, had an interception. Whatever. You're going to have growing pains as a rookie. You can ask Zach Wilson from the Jets. He just looked awful, And but I think that Fields is in a good spot, but then again he's also in a bad spot because when you're going up against Myles Garrett, he'll be licking his chops to get Justin Fields, but Justin Fields is actually fast. But Allen Robinson, he actually does have a good matchup. That the matchup is actually there. You just want him and Justin Fields to have you actually know that more that time together, being able to develop a lot more chemistry out there. And the Browns are 23rd versus the pass, and they're 17th versus wideouts. And when Allen Robinson plays in the slot 46% of the time, he will see Troy Hill. Now, yeah, Troy Hill, he has been good for this season so far, giving up 0.210 fantasy points. But Troy Hill is 5'11", Allen Robinson is 6'3". So Allen Robinson is a very good route runner. He actually can catch the ball. And last week, he could have had 2 touchdowns. Fields threw Robinson the ball, and Robinson had it in his hands, and he dropped it. So I think that Robinson's going to want to make up for that because he's in a good matchup. He's definitely in a good matchup, and that he knows Fields is actually going to look his way a lot up in that game. On the Brown side too, just to talk about it, they may get Odell back. If he does play, I mean, just temper expectations for him. You don't know as to what's going to happen. I know Jarvis Landry's hurt, so the Browns are going to go with the run game, but just temper expectations for Robinson and possibly Odell Beckham Jr. That's all that I have for y'all for this week. That once again, follow me over on the Instagram and on Twitter at King Bezos. That's KIINGBEZOS. Definitely also want to say thank you that once again to my subscribers, viewers, people that like that video. Definitely appreciate all of my content, especially with me actually trying to break down all of the games for you. Definitely want to say thank you, appreciate it. Definitely continue just to help me grow, just to help me with this, because this is like my first year doing this type of YouTube channel. So definitely appreciate all of the positive support. So hey, let's actually get this money. It's actually week 3. Sunday after at 11:30, y'all can actually see my that picks for actually as to what I'm playing, and everybody, let's actually get this money. So until next time, deuces.